Hello, welcome back to another week of Good Guys Sports. Joined by myself, your host, Blake Gerke, and my brother, of course, Jackson Gerke, is joining us today on this show where we are going to preview the March Madness Sweet 16 and Elite Eight matchups potentially we have here, as well as recapping how we got here with the first two rounds. And of course, we're going to touch upon opening day today. Thursday, March 27th, is the opening day for Major League Baseball. One of our co-hosts, Mike Roby, of course, is attending one of these games in Washington. Him being a Nationals fan, I'm a big Braves fan myself, and so we will certainly be touching upon MLB season kicking off as we look ahead to who we like, who we don't like in this season, and kind of some of the big trends and movers that we think will make an impact in this MLB season. But Jack, I think we should probably start with the March Madness. Of course, we saw the first two round games. I myself popped over to catch one of the games in Raleigh, the first two rounds. They were a host of one of the first two rounds for the Duke Blue Devils. So I was able to, yep, as Jackson is showing off there for the camera for all of our YouTube viewers, the first and second round matchups here in Raleigh were taking place where Duke took care of Mount St. Mary's pretty handily in the first round, as one would expect, and then similarly they took care of business against the Baylor Bears in the second round. Not obviously as convincingly, but the first half was possibly a bit more tight, and then the second half kind of went the way of the Blue Devils in that East region. And then on the other side of the East Regional, we saw Oregon taking care of business against Liberty, Arizona taking care of Akron quite handily. And then in that 5-4 matchup, we saw Arizona get the victory there to put themselves in a matchup against the Duke Blue Devils in that Sweet 16, which is taking place tonight as we record on March 27th in Newark. A late start on the East Coast, 9:40. Bit of a late one for the East Coast audience, but the NCAA has their reasons, I suppose. And then as well on the East Coast, or excuse me, in the East region, we have BYU taking on Alabama. Obviously, me and Jackson were watching the BYU Wisconsin was a great game, wasn't it? In that second round matchup where BYU were shooting the lights out of the ball, and they were able to defeat the Badgers in that upset victory. And then Alabama took care of St. Mary's pretty handily. I was hoping Vanderbilt was able to come out of there and possibly give Alabama a bit of a scare, but wasn't quite the case. So got an interesting BYU Alabama matchup. That's gonna be a good one, I think. I think that's gonna be a fun game. That's kicking off here in 2 hours, about 2 hours as we record here. BYU Bama. So winner of that game will take on the winner of Duke Arizona. And me personally, I would expect Duke to be the winner of that matchup. So let's start with the East Regional, Jack. Duke Arizona, BYU Alabama. Any thoughts on these matchups or any of the games that preceded them? Obviously, I think the best game from this regional probably was the BYU Wisconsin game, and they're taking on Bama, right? So any thoughts on that East region as we look forward to the games tonight?
Yeah, for Duke, Arizona, the keys are the key is that you got to slow down um Caleb Love for Arizona. He is a very athletic and is a great shooter, and he can and he is a great player, tough to defend, and he's one of the great players um on Arizona and for Duke. They are going to be tested for that reason, and I think if I'm Coach John Steyer, I got to have the right game plan and put my best players out on the court and try to defend this player as much as I can, and try to limit him with his playing minutes and just try to slow him down and to try to get that game plan going for and then for Cooper Flag and for Caleb Foster and Tyree Brocker and those guys, I've got to do everything I can to block his shots so that the Blue Devils can have a chance. And if they do all that, then I think then I think Duke will have a chance to win that game. As for the BYU Alabama game, I think Alabama's going to win this one simply because they have the better players, where BYU has the more experienced players. Although BYU is a good team too, but I think Alabama is going to win this game. So for the East region, for those games to take place up in Newark, and I think in the first matchup, I think Alabama and they know to and those players are the better team for me. So I've got
Right.
Alabama to win in the first game in this in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, no, I mean I can certainly understand that on paper. Alabama looked to be a pretty good team, and they've taken care of business so far up to this point. I was pretty impressed with BYU though. We were watching that game against Wisconsin, and I mean they scored 91 points. They were shooting lights out of the ball, like I mentioned earlier. BYU, that is. Wisconsin couldn't really answer the sort of the shooting they had. BYU, particularly. The one player that impressed me from BYU, Saunders, Ricky Saunders. He's white guy with the headband, classic March Madness vibes. The guy that gets hot and can't miss from the three ball. So I think that'll be a really good game. I think of the Sweet 16 games, I personally think Duke is too much to handle for Arizona. I think Duke will take care of business similar to how they took care of Baylor. Similar to Arizona, I think it will possibly be close for the first half, and then they'll kind of pull away in that second half. I think BYU Alabama is going to be a really tight game all the way, similar to the BYU Wisconsin game. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me if BYU gets an upset there against Alabama. So I think just for the sake of difference, I'm gonna pick BYU against Alabama. I think Jack, I'm gonna go for the upset there.
Mm.
So
We will see what happens tonight. That's all I can say to that.
I'm predicting a Duke BYU Elite Eight, which would be interesting, and then I think Duke will beat BYU in the Elite Eight to advance to the Final Four. Is my prediction. I'm assuming you have Duke going to the Final Four in the East region as well.
I do.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So let's jump over to the South region, where our elite, or excuse me, our Sweet 16 matchups consist of Auburn versus Michigan. That's gonna be a great game, I think, personally.
Oh yeah,
Two
definitely.
two two big schools. And similarly, Ole Miss, Michigan State, I think will be a good game as well. I think this region has some really fun matchups. Obviously, Auburn overcame Creighton in their second round matchup, and Michigan similarly took care of business against A&M. Personally, in my bracket, I personally have Michigan going to the Final Four as a 5 seed. So for my bracket, I'll be pulling for Michigan, but they're taking on the Auburn Tigers, number one overall seed in the entire tournament, not just in their own region, the entire overall tournament. They're the top ranked team, so they're obviously a well-respected team. And Ole Miss versus Michigan State, we've got Tom Izzo of the Spartans, right, Jack? Who's he's
Hmm.
he's he's one of the last sort of older coaches who's been around in the older days of college basketball, who's still hanging on, and he's got a talented team there in Michigan State for sure, taking on Ole Miss. So two interesting matchups. Personally, I think in my bracket, I had Michigan versus I think I actually had North Carolina making a run, so I didn't have Ole Miss in there. But that would kind of be an interesting if we got Michigan versus Michigan State in the Elite Eight, right? I didn't even think about that. That'd be a kind of a fun matchup, huh?
Wouldn't that be something?
So but what do you think about these two matchups? Who do you have advancing?
I have um I have Auburn. They are the better team. It's tough to defend and slow down and keep track and just to slow down or stop Jamar Broom. He is, but like Cooper Flag, he is by far one of the best players in all of college basketball. In that category, in that same list, on the top 10 list of one of the greatest players in college basketball. Tough to defend, tough to slow down, both ends and side of the ball. He is that good for a reason and very athletic and I think I think Dusty May and his Wolverines guys and players are going to have a hard time to slow him down or turn him over or just prevent him from making any mistakes or turning the ball over or preventing him to make critical mistakes from taking the ball away from him. It's just going to be that tough. Um, so Michigan's going to really have a hard time just slowing him down and defending him. So I have Auburn winning that game, but I think Michigan will keep things close. As great of the players they have on this team, but I just think Auburn's a better. I just think Auburn's a better team, and they have better players, and and then of course this game is being played in Atlanta, just up the road from their campus, and
Right.
plus I think Mr. Morgan, if you're listening, I think he should go to this game since the game is down the road from their house from where Mrs. Morgan lives. Also in the NCAA. Also her team is in the NCAA tournament, which we will get to later. That he I think should attend the game to support his beloved Auburn Tigers so that they can cheer him on the victory and hope his team moves on to the Elite Eight. So War Eagle, I have Auburn winning the game. Auburn
Okay.
wins.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you made a good argument, to be fair. I'm not sure I can refute many of the things that you've raised there. I guess what I will say is that I think the Auburn, obviously they took care of Creighton. 82-70 was the final score, but I think the final score of that game is a little bit deceiving because I think you watched that full game as well, the Auburn Creighton game. Creighton was in that game for a good long while. I think Auburn kind of pulled away at the very end, so that score might be a little bit deceiving. I Auburn is the number one overall seed in the entire tournament. I don't think Auburn is the best team in the country. I think Duke is a much better team than Auburn, to be honest with you, Jackson. And I think probably the likes of a couple other teams, possibly Florida, Houston, Tennessee. I don't know. I feel like Auburn started off really strong, and obviously Johnny Broome, um, as you've mentioned, is got a case for being Player of the Year, and he's been dominant, and they've got a great team. So obviously it wouldn't shock me if they get a victory here against Michigan, but I do feel like they've tailed off a little bit these past couple weeks. They haven't been quite as dominant, maybe as we would have expected in prior matchups. So I'm gonna go with the Michigan Wolverines, Jack. And you know,
Hmm.
I've seen this before. I remember going to a Final Four in Atlanta where Michigan took part probably about a decade ago at this point. Michigan just always seems like one of those teams that just always hangs around in March. Whether they're a 1 seed, a 3 seed, a 6 seed, they always just seem like they're gonna hang around. They're just there, thereabout. And they've always got sort of that quality in March where they always seem to pull a victory out of there, you know what. And so I don't know. Maybe I'm just falling victim to the Michigan brand and all of that, but I'm going with the Wolverines here, Jack. I mean,
Hmm.
call me crazy, but I'm going with Big Blue.
Oh, oh wow. I mean, you're going Big Ten bias. I mean, sounds like you're one of those guys that supports the Big Ten
Maybe.
over the SEC.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, listen, I've got plenty of SEC love. Obviously, I've got my undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt, who is SEC institution, so plenty of SEC love here. Um, but I think in terms of like I'm going with the brand, right? So Auburn basketball, granted, under the guidance of Bruce Pearl, they've had a great couple of years, right? But Michigan basketball has had a consistent run here, maybe going back all the way to the Fab Five, right, in the 90s. So maybe
Yeah.
I'm falling victim to sort of the brand bias here, but I just can't pick against Michigan in this situation. I'm not sure why, but maybe it'll come back to bite me. But I don't know. I'm feeling the yellow and the yellow and blue here, Jack. What can I say?
Nothing wrong with that. I just think that you and I have different opinions on this, one way or the other. You and me both. That's just how it is on sports talk shows.
Absolutely. Agree, disagree. What about Ole Miss, Michigan State in that other matchup? Tom
Ooh,
Izzo's men.
that should be a rematch of Chris Beard and when they last met in the Final Four, and Tom Izzo still going strong at it.
Wait, it's the rematch
In his age
of
70
wait, what is it a rematch of?
of the Final Four a few seasons ago. That
Or
they,
Michigan
in
State played
a,
Ole Miss?
yeah, I mean
Oh
they
wow.
played before,
I
but I
didn't
don't know about it's their
I didn't
tournament.
realize that.
But I think they have. So yeah, so
Okay.
when I look at this game, Michigan State is by far one of the top teams, one of the one of the top teams in the country, only not being the number one top seed. But Tom Izzo, they are a great basketball school for those who bleed green. Um,
Good defense, right?
Coach great Tom Izzo, who
Fundamentals.
is in his early 70s, unlike Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, which I believe should have coached another 5 years. Well, unlike Coach K, Tom Izzo still going strong at it. He can actually coach for another 5 seasons. Just because he's still a young coach, he still loves to yell, and he's still
That's the
a
key.
forward, and he still bleeds and loves the game of college basketball.
Hey, as
And the
long as
most
you can
fun,
yell, you can still coach, in my opinion.
entertaining guy you'll fun, exciting
He's a
guy
good
you'll ever
character for
be
sure, isn't
around.
he? Yeah, yeah.
And that's just who he is. And then and then to me, when I look at Michigan State, I know that they're a great team, both sides of the ball, that they are a great team. They can defend and they can play offense, and they're great at what they do. So
Yeah.
I think that I think Michigan State will win the game, but it'll be very close. But Ole Miss to me has been one of the surprise teams of the tournament so far.
Yeah.
One of the teams not BYU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. One of the teams not making it to the Final Four ever in its existence, ever in school history. So who knows? Maybe all that can change. But for me, I'm going to be sticking with Michigan State because Michigan State's just a better team. They're a basketball school,
Hmm.
and you picked a Michigan school to win in this last game.
Right.
I am going to be taking the other Michigan school, State, to beat
Okay.
Ole Miss um, to win the game, and they will be playing. And then Tom Izzo, unbeaten in the Sweet 16, had never lost as a coach. He is going to continue the streak, and Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans are going to continue dancing, and they're going to be moving on to play for the record consecutive longest streak in the Sweet 16.
Okay. Okay. I like it. Yeah, we definitely got a big SEC versus Big Ten theme here going in this Sweet 16 Elite Eight matchups. Lots of representation and sprinkled in a couple ACC Big 12, of course. But yeah, no, listen, I personally I think I had Michigan State and North Carolina in this matchup, and I actually had UNC going. Maybe that's just the triangle bias in me, but I think I'm with you. I'm with you here, Jack, in this one. Looking at how these teams have performed so far, I'm going with Michigan State here as well. I think Tom Izzo, we saw him. He's been around for a while. He doesn't like the portal. He doesn't like NIL, but you know what he does like is good fundamental basketball and guys that play defense, right? And I think he's got that on this Sparty team here. So yeah, I think I'm personally predicting a huge rivalry, Michigan State Elite Eight matchup. You're obviously going for Auburn versus Michigan State, but I think we're both high on Sparty here in this South region.
Yeah, I think that should be a that would be interesting of how this is going to really play out in this one. It could go either way, but yeah, something that we'll definitely keep our eye on for sure. So yeah. definitely keep an eye on that.
Now let's jump down to the Midwest region, Jackson, where we've got in our Sweet 16 matchup, Houston, number one seed Houston taking on four seed Purdue, and number two seed Tennessee taking on number three seed Kentucky. So no real upsets here to speak of. Obviously, McNeese defeated Clemson but then they fell victim to Purdue in the second round matchup. Houston took care of Gonzaga in their second round matchup to set up a matchup tomorrow night against Purdue, Houston, that is. And then an interesting one tomorrow night as well, Kentucky versus Tennessee. Bit of a rivalry game here, no? I mean these two teams obviously are traditional SEC rivals being close proximity in the States. But let's start with Houston, Purdue. I personally, I'm not too sure what to think of this one because traditionally, Houston have always been a high seed and they've never really lived up to expectations come tournament time. I'm sure Houston fans listen to this might be a bit think that's a bit harsh, but obviously they're now in the Big 12. They used to be in I think one of the American Athletic Conference. So they were playing like under 12 teams in that conference, but they're at least in the Big 12 now, so they've got some decent competition. I just always I think it's interesting. Houston, I always struggle to pick going particularly far in the tournament. Purdue, although they made it to the final last year, they don't have Zach Edey anymore. They're not quite maybe as dominant. This is the tough one. I feel like I'm leaning slightly towards Houston just because I feel like they probably have more talent on paper, but I mean this is a bit of a coin flip. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, this game. Yeah, I can see this game going either way. I mean, you think about it, we could have more late changes, and this could be a offensive defensive game, and this game could go back and forth. It could be this. Yeah, that one to me. I agree, Blake. We could see this. This one to me should be going to a coin flip, even though Houston's a great team as the number one seed, but Purdue only the fourth seed. Matt Paver and those guys and the Boilermakers only and not even a drive away from campus in your home state. It just doesn't make any. It just doesn't get any better than that for those fans and team doesn't have to travel this far compared to what Duke did when they traveled from Durham all the way to the Lenovo Center in Raleigh, which is probably a lot more shorter than what the Purdue Boilermakers team will be doing on their trip down to Indy. So I could definitely see this one going either way, like you said, Blake. And um
I didn't realize actually. So they're playing in Indianapolis. So that's
they are,
actually interesting.
and
A,
yeah,
a big
they
advantage
are,
for Purdue then.
and they are. And one other note to keep in mind is that this game is going to be played at Lucas Oil Stadium, in large part because the high school game is taking place at the Bankers Life field house in their basketball arena there. So that's why they had
Right.
to move this game to get a rehearsal ready for next year's Final Four there. So that's part of the reason why it's being played there on Friday night.
Yeah, interesting for sure. I think some of the scheduling for these games, I'm a little bit confused by. Obviously, Purdue, Houston, is Indianapolis is in the central time zone, right?
Close. They're still considered in the Eastern time zone, even though it's still considered the Midwest. So
Is it really?
yeah, so Chicago, yeah. So you bet, yeah. So yeah, you went to Purdue most of your time there for a few years. That when I was traveling up there at the time, I've noticed that if you're in West Lafayette, Indiana, you notice that you're in the Eastern time zone. But if you
That's
like
right. Yeah.
right, but if you cross into Chicago into Illinois, that is, you are in the Central time zone. So I know you find that confusing, but
Well, I do because
that's just how the geographically map and time zones are set up that way.
the Houston Purdue game is tipping off at 10 p.m. in Indianapolis, which there's no time change there, so that's 10 p.m. local, right? I
Yes.
mean, that's pretty wild. And to be fair, the Duke game tonight tipping off at 9:40 Eastern in New Jersey. So I guess that's sort of to appease the TV audiences there, but I don't know. That's a bit of an interesting TV scheduling, obviously, issue. That's, besides the point. But so are you picking Houston or Purdue then?
I am taking the Cougars.
You've got Houston?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
have the Houston Cougars moving on. I just think that they're just a bit too much to handle. Kelvin Sampson and those Cougars are on a
Yeah.
to mission from Space Center, South this Johnson Space Center from the Cougars
Mission Control.
that they will mission control, and those Cougars will move on, and they are on quest on a trip to hopefully maybe win their first national championship. Even though I'm not going to hand myself, but the Cougars
That could be on
are on a
home state.
mission are on a mission to beat the Boilermakers, and are going they are going to break the in order to be Harper and the fans at the Boilermakers in Indy are going to be heartbreaking for those fans up in Lucas Oil, and the Purdue is going to be it is going to be quiet and stunned, and the Cougars are going to quiet the crowd up there in Lucas Oil and Indy. They're going to be moving on, and they're going to be playing in the Elite Eight.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I can't argue against that. What about the other matchup in the Midwest region where we got a big SEC battle, a bit of a bluegrass battle, I call it, between Kentucky and Tennessee. Two teams that are pretty highly rated, obviously. Kentucky being a traditional blue blood, as you would say, Jackson, and Tennessee having a pretty good year all around in the SEC. Um, this is a tough one as well, to be fair, Jackson. I personally am picking Tennessee, even though I'm a Vanderbilt graduate and they're the rival of Vanderbilt, but I tend to think Tennessee is a pretty good ball team this year. I think Kentucky is a good team. They're maybe not one of these elite Kentucky teams compared to the usual standard they would expect at the Blue Blood, right? So I got to go with the orange here, Jack.
Yeah, so this would be the third time in a row that both these teams will be um, meeting together, which is crazy. Which is crazy. So I'm with you, Blake. I mean, no, if you think about it, out of the previous last few meetings that these teams play each other, no team has won three in a row. So I agree, Blake. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to win three in a row against the same single opponent. It's really not going to be that easy. It's really hard to do. So I'm with you there, Blake. I think Tennessee is going to is going to win the game. They're going to make the Elite Eight, and and if they have, and then not going to have myself here, but Tennessee will be winning this game. Rick Barnes will finally get over the hump and beat those Kentucky Wildcats. Everybody in Lexington going to be is just going to be stunned and quiet, and it's just going to be really, really just really not going to be that happy after what I'm about to say. But Tennessee will get over the hump. They will finally beat Kentucky, and Rocky Top Tennessee, those fans in Knoxville will
Rocky
finally be
Top
happy, and they
Tennessee.
will gouge out Tennessee. That Dolly Parton and Peyton Manning and Big Orange Country and the Vols will finally get it done, and they're going to move on and finally be to Kentucky Wildcats, and they're going to be playing the Elite Eight. And Tennessee is moving on, Blake. They're moving on.
Yeah, well, Tennessee got a chance to move on in Peyton Manning's home stadium of Lucas Oil, right?
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, that'll be
Shout out to Peyton Manning,
absolutely
who was first built the place for his beloved NFL team that he grew up with.
the place that yeah, certainly a stadium that Peyton built for sure. Yeah, no,
Right.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm picking Rocky Top here as well. I think they've just got a better team on paper, and I would expect them to get take care of business against the Wildcats. They're going to be up for this game. This will be a big game for sure tomorrow night. Definitely going to be one to keep an eye on for sure. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm all on Rocky Top. I'm on Rocky Top. So let's jump now to the last region that we haven't discussed, which is the West, where we have got the four remaining teams. Florida taking on Maryland. That is taking place tonight. And then we have Texas Tech versus John Calipari's Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, we saw the Florida Gators advance in I don't know, a controversial game and an interesting game for sure here in Raleigh, actually, against the UConn Huskies, two-time defending national champions. They scraped by, obviously, to the dismay of Dan Hurley, who's had a few choice words to say about the officiating in that game, but they managed to scrape by in that game. And then as well, Maryland, Uncle Mike's Terrapins, I guess Terrapins, whatever it is, Turtles, I
Terrapins.
guess. Yeah, close enough.
Dirty Terps.
Dirty Terps. They had a game-winning shot against Colorado State, Jack. Did you
Yes,
see
yes,
that?
I did. And yes, they did, Blake. And and yes, I did, Blake. And um yes, Blake. And that player believe
Queen,
and
right?
that and that yes,
Derek Queen.
yes, that player is Derek Green, who has had
It
the
was a great
shot
shot, wasn't it?
of his life, and he nailed it and got the game-winning buzzer beater.
Yep.
And Daryl Queen, who is a hometown Maryland kid from Baltimore, has dreamed for this moment for winning for his hometown team, who has made his family proud, and he's finally won his shot, won his game winning shot for one of the best moments of his life and his career. That's something that he has dreamed of as a player, and he's finally he's finally done it, and he's yeah, and he's finally finally got over the hump, and that his team finally got the game winning shot at the right time after being on the wrong end of it for the last for their last few consecutive games um um for Maryland for the last games that went down the wire, but this time around they flipped the script and they're moving on, and they're going to be and they are going to be
Tough matchup
taking
against the
on
Gators, though,
Walton.
huh?
Yeah, that's right. They're going to be taking on Walton Clayton and their well coached Todd Golden's Florida Gators team, and they're going to be they're and the Maryland Crab Five as their new nickname for we know about the Michigan Fab Five.
I
Well,
like that
the
crab
Maryland
vibe.
Terrapins Crab Five, which will be their new nickname that they're going to be up
Crab
against.
dip.
Yeah, and your point about Florida in the last game against UConn, well,
Hmm.
UConn had a game-winning buzzer, but it was too little, too late.
Right.
They got the shot up that it was good, but the clock, but they did it without after the clock hit zero. They um they packed their bag and they sent themselves home to vacation or back to campus up in Storrs, Connecticut. So I don't know if you saw Blake, but I watched Dan Hurley's post-game press conference,
Emotional.
and he just got he just had tears in his eye and so emotional, he's just so heartbroken that how he's proud of those guys, knowing that
Right.
he's not going to coach his seniors anymore because he's going to be going to the upcoming NBA draft season, and how his team and his players thought they were on quest to go for a three-peat. It turns out it wasn't the case, and it was not going to happen.
Hmm.
So instead, they'll be going home, packing their bags, and just cleaning out their lockers and getting ready for next year. Or in the off season, just move on from it. Just pack their bags and just get ready for the off season for them, I guess. So they had a great season and great run. It's just harder to retweet nowadays in college basketball than it was back in
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
UCLA John Wooden days. So now the Gators are moving on, and they are set up against a Maryland's a very good team too. Going up against the Crab Five, but like I said earlier, you're going up against Walter Clayton Jr., who is a 6'3" senior who is their number one guard on their team. That he averages 179 point, 3.8 rebounds, and he is 4.42 assists and 4.46 field goal percentage. So on the court. So really, when I look at him, I just know that if you want to beat Florida, you got to stop this guy because Walter Clayton Jr. is on a whole another level, playing at a 100% high efficiency, and he just so hard to defend and so hard to beat. If if Maryland has any chance or shot to beat Florida, then they're going to have to they're going to have to slow down and stop and make Walter Clayton miss some shots and just slow him down, and force him to get more turnovers. That's the only chance Maryland has to win that game. So I think Maryland's got a pretty good chance to win. It's not going to be easy, but it could go either way. But I think Maryland's going to probably win the game, but it's going to be close. But um,
So you're picking the Crab Five?
I am.
Wow. Okay. Okay. A bit of an
I
upset
mean,
pick there.
look.
I like it. I like it.
Look. Florida has had a great run. Yes, they're the number one seed, but there's something about Maryland that I think might surprise you of how great of a team they are after after what I've seen from that game-winning buzzer beater shot in their game last week against Colorado State. So
Hmm.
I look for that tonight. So I think that Maryland Terrapins will win this game, but it's just going to be not easy. But um, I think Florida's my. I mean, Florida's going to come. I mean,
So you're
Florida.
putting the Gators on upset alert here. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
I like it. I like it.
just think about it, Blake. Number one team. Think about it. This is a tournament. There's always going to be a number one team going down the tournament.
Anything
I
can
think.
happen.
I think that's. I think that's. But I think that's one of them right there. That they're that remember this is and keep in mind this is Todd Golden's reunion because he actually is from the San Francisco Bay Area because that's
Right.
where this game is being played at for their
Uh-huh.
Sweet 16 game out in the Midwest region. So
Yep.
it will be interesting to see how this game plays out. But I got Maryland to win this game by at least 5 points at least or fewer to win that game. So Florida's a great team. I mean, no disrespect to Walter Clayton Jr. I do think he'll be possibly in Steph Curry kind of level as a player, but um, if and when he does get drafted in the NBA in the pro level, which I think he'll be, but
Yep.
then I just think that it's going to be Maryland's night to win that game.
Okay. I like it. Yeah, I like it. Listen, I was watching the Maryland Colorado State game and it was a heck of a ball game for sure. And that last second shot by Queen certainly cemented that game as an all-time classic. So um I think I am in my bracket. I think I had Florida advancing, but I would like to see Maryland pull off the upset. So, yeah, why not? I'm gonna go with you, Jack. I'm gonna join you, and I'm gonna pick the Turtles here.
Yeah, I agree. Maryland's a good team too,
Yeah,
but
let's do it. Why not?
but Florida is
In
a
honor of Vocal
well,
Mike.
but yeah, right. Of course. You gotta, of course, you you got to support his hometown team now. You have to gotta support his hometown team now. You just gotta get. Yeah, you're
Support the
right.
DMV.
Yep, you gotta give love to him and the fans of DNB.
Yep,
Yes, you're right. You got to give support, and even
you got
though
to.
Maryland's got a chance, it's not going to be easy. But Florida is a very well coached team, so you just got to do everything you can to slow them down. Just it will not be easy, but we're winning the game. But yes, Florida is a very well coached basketball team, and you just got to just do everything you can to slow them down. So I agree, Blake. Maryland will win the game.
Okay. And then the other Sweet 16 matchup in the West region, the last game we have to preview here, Jackson, is the Texas Tech Red Raiders taking on the upset John Calipari Arkansas Razorbacks, who pulled off the upset against the St. John in Rick Pitino's St. John's team, who a lot of people were high on obviously Patino's St. John's team, but they came up against the Razorbacks and couldn't get it done. And Calipari's done a heck of a job here with this Razorback team. So um, I personally have Texas Tech going to the Final Four in my bracket, just to give the viewers and listeners a heads up there. So I'm pretty high on the Red Raiders. I think they're a solid team. They possibly would have been a higher seed if they were in a better conference. I think Texas Tech is a really good team, personally speaking. So I think this is where Calipari's Cinderella run with the Razorbacks will end. So I'm picking the Red Raiders. Jackson, what do you think about this matchup?
This is a good one right there. This is interesting because you got John Calipari who has who goes from one SEC team to the other. Now, now is going to be in in terms of position for the Elite Eight. Yet, hopefully, he's got a shot at another Sweet 16, and so really, and so really, for me, what I'm looking at is that I'm seeing is that John Calipari and his players, everywhere that John Calipari has been, he has found a way to he has found a way starting to win a game, whether it's
Right.
from Memphis or from other D1 schools like Pittsburgh or whatever in
Yeah.
Kentucky. His team's always found a way to win. Now Texas Tech, they're a pretty good Tiki team too, but I've got to go for the Razorbacks in this one
Really?
because you got great players, and I
Wow.
think they're just a better team. But now, and I just think that they're too good. They got great players, and I just think the Razorbacks are just going to win this game. I just think and I just
So do
think
you so you're
are
predicting
going to win that game.
you're predicting a Maryland Arkansas Elite Eight. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who do you
That's
have in that matchup?
in the Maryland Arkansas game.
Yes.
Arkansas.
Wow. So you've got Arkansas making a run to the Final Four.
Yep, I do.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Everyone place your bets now. A 10 seed making it to the Final Four. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. We definitely
Mm.
seen some of these lower seeds making a run, so it's not totally unheard of. So then you would have them facing off against. So let's go through our Final Fours then. So you've got Arkansas coming out of the West region. In
Hmm.
the South region, you have Auburn coming out. Is that correct?
Yes,
So you've got
correct.
Auburn versus Arkansas, an SEC battle in one Final Four. And then I'm assuming you have Duke coming out of the East,
Yes,
facing up against.
they're facing up against Caleb Love and the Arizona Wildcats, and
Right. No, no. So yeah. So you've got Duke winning the East region. Who do you have winning the Midwest region? Do you have Houston or do you have Tennessee?
um, Houston.
Okay. Okay. So you got Duke, Houston. Interesting. Okay. I personally have Duke winning the East, and I've got Tennessee winning the Midwest region. So I've got a Duke Tennessee Final Four, and then I've actually got a Michigan winning the South region. So keep an eye on that one. I've got the upset pick there. And then I've got a Texas Tech winning the West. So I've got a bit of an upset in the other side of the bracket in the West and South region. I've got Michigan, Texas Tech. So I've gone a bit more chalk, Duke, Tennessee, and then Michigan, Texas Tech. So I'm throwing myself out there. It could end up being a bad prediction, Jack, but I feel like March Madness, it never ends up being the best teams, right? So you got to make a few bold predictions here and there, don't you?
You do, Blake, and you just never know what's going to happen because it's the tournament. It's March. Anything can happen. That's really what the tournament's all about. And sometimes you just don't, and sometimes you just don't really know how a game's going to all play out and what's going to happen because something weird is going to happen, and you can see people's brackets are being busted, and everything's everything in this tournament just prevents chaos and surprise and excitement and the more thrilling finishes you'll ever see. That's what it comes down to, and that's the beauty of the tournament in March Madness, and that's really what it all comes down to. And you just gotta live with it and just enjoy it. That's just part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. So we will certainly enjoy the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight matchups as we progress here through the tournament. And then obviously next time we come to you, we will be previewing the Final Four. So we have our
That's the beauty of it, Blake. I mean, it's a tournament. I mean, what else could you ask for?
absolutely.
We're in a part where teams are going to get tested, and they're going to be facing pressure, backs against the wall. It's going to be grinding it down and everything on the line, and that's just going to really come down to of how tough it gets for this part of the season. You got to be prepared for it and buckle up because we're going to be in for a long one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So we will certainly keep everyone updated on the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight matchup. Me and Jackson have given our predictions. We've got some similar picks and some different picks. So we will obviously regroup here a week from now and see how the Final Four progresses, and then obviously make our predictions from there. So certainly looking forward to getting to San Antonio here, Jack, aren't we?
Oh, oh, we're so excited, Blake. But hey, one game at a time for
Absolutely.
our Duke Blue Devils.
Uh-huh.
And if it all goes well, who knows? Maybe you and I, Mr. Kevin, and our whole family can get ourselves plane tickets and get ourselves out, out to San Antonio and see all the sightseeing stuff
I wouldn't count on
and do the
that,
river
but
walk and check
you
out
never
all
know.
the sand festivities. I mean, you're right, Blake.
Who
You just never
knows? Who
know
knows?
because my parents are Dave and Kennedy and I. You never know what might
Right.
happen
Who
because
knows?
might get surprised by Final Four tickets if our team makes it. But well, stuff that happens. You just never know. You just never know what our parents are going to be surprising us with. It's just one of those things you got to be prepared for. And if it is, then I think we'll enjoy it and just um and just live for it until it lasts.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so I we've got about 10 minutes left in the show here, Jackson, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but today is a bit of a special day in the sports calendar, and I'm not talking about basketball. I'm talking about MLB opening day is today. Were you aware of this?
Um, I wasn't until this afternoon when I first realized that I was watching. The first game I was watching today
Oh
was
yeah,
the Yankees taking on the Brewers,
it's
and
happening. They're up 4-1
yes,
right now in the eighth.
oh wow, that didn't happen. Wow, that happened so
Oh
quickly.
yeah,
But yeah,
baseball's here, my friend.
baseball is back, and Uncle Mike is at the ballpark as we speak, and yes, the Yankees are off to a great start, and they came so close. They were this close to winning the World Series last year, only to fall to the Dodgers from what was a from what was a lead they had late in the game until they like blew it in like game five or game six it was. But they're back in it. It's a special day for the game of baseball. The sport is back. Um, warm days are coming, and swing bats are going at it, and so so the sport is back. Nothing they can really ask for. The Braves open up their season today against at the Padres, and the Braves are leading 4-3 right now on top of the fifth. But and then we got defending world champion Dodgers playing tonight against the Tigers, which would be a very emotional and different kind of feel of opening day because of all the wildfires and all the surrounding homes of any Dodgers family member or coaches or one of the manager's friends homes they lost there and their automobiles and vehicles of how it's going to be that kind of different feel of opening day. But for being back at Dodger Stadium this World Series last year, it will be very interesting to see how that one plays out. But besides from that, for all the firefighters and law enforcement that probably take care of that, I think what's going to happen in that opening day game is I think you'll see the firefighters and the law enforcement throughout the first pitch of the Dodgers game at Dodger Stadium tonight. So I think that will be something special for that'll be my prediction. I think for those families and loved ones who were lost, and hope that they recover for the fans and families that have been lost and missed, and from what they suffered in the off season. Which I'm sure they'll bounce back, even though it'll take years. But yeah, that would be something to keep our eye on, and for sure, especially with the Dodgers, that they are the defending World Series champs, so they're going to be hard to beat. So I just think the Dodgers are still the best team in the NL for a reason because of that.
Right.
Hard to defend, and so far, Yankees are looking good. And the game that Uncle Mike's at right now, yeah, the Phillies are up 2-1 right now. Bob seventh. His team's losing right now,
Boo-hoo.
but only by one. So it's only a one score game. So
Right.
so hang in there, Uncle Mike. I'm sure you'll
Hang in there,
I'm,
buddy.
I'm sure you'll get some bases loaded
It's a long season.
and try to get a walk off or single in park home run or something. Just hope that your team does well, but like you said,
Not
Blake,
too well.
it's a long season, so
Yeah.
he'll have plenty of baseball to live with this season.
No, yeah, for sure, yeah, and obviously it's a great occasion, opening day. We get to sort of celebrate the season, make some predictions, think about how things are going to progress. I guess as we look to sort of the teams that we think will do well, teams that we think may struggle this year in the MLB. Um, any thoughts on? I think one of the interesting teams to keep an eye on, the American League East, is always an interesting division with obviously the Yankees and Red Sox being big spenders traditionally, right? And
Yeah.
the Yankees obviously suffered with Garrett Cole going out with a Tommy John surgery, so he's going to be out. And then obviously Juan Soto departing across town to Queens to join the New York Mets. And they obviously added a couple players in the offseason. They added Fried from the Braves and Bellinger as well to kind of patch in a few holes. And the Red Sox as well. People are pretty high on the Red Sox. They made a couple of interesting acquisitions this offseason, and obviously Baltimore has a young core that they're pretty high on as well. So I don't know. In the American League, what do you think, Jack? Are you high on the Yankees season, the Red Sox? Well, I mean, Baltimore. What should we expect from the American League this year?
For the Yankees, not really. They have lost Juan Soto. You trade him away from just down the street, or I should say, just a few miles down the road from the other from the to the other New York team over there in Queens, that Bushy Meadows to the
Yeah, they
Mets,
lost in the free agency. Yeah,
which I believe any Yankees fans that you listen to or talk to is not so happy from the trade that they made from this player
it
because
wasn't so it wasn't a trade. So they traded for Soto, and then his
right.
contract expired, and then he signed a deal this offseason with the Mets, where he could have signed a deal with the Yankees, but he signed with the Mets. So it's obviously a rough one for the Yankees fans, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Because you think about it, you lost a great player, and your team should have kept him. Like everybody in talk radio for the Yankees up in New York has just got to feel so devastated,
What are these
and they're
guys
not.
doing,
What are you
huh?
guys doing? They should have kept him. They should have kept him for like another run for another run this season. They should have did everything they can, and so yeah, the Yankees just had a few injuries in their rotation in their lineup. So and if it didn't have any injuries and if you kept Joan Soto, then they could have had another magical run this season, like they did last year, which I feel like should have happened. But because they couldn't keep him, it just wasn't going to happen. His contract with the team was up. They couldn't agree and renew it. So that now leads to Juan Soto um, going across the city, across town to the Mets over there in Citi Field, and you pair him up with Bryce Harper in the same division along with our Braves. That's going to get a lot of sellout crowds for Juan Soto or for Bryce Harper if those teams play in Philly or New York. And if Juan Soto being one of the most highest paid player in all pro sports,
Yeah.
along with Steph Curry, and we know um, we know Messi um, and
He's got a big contract. Yeah, for
among
sure.
others.
For sure.
Yes, so really and so really for me, what I'm looking at is by far the best baseball player, along with Shohei Ohtani, who plays for the Dodgers from Japan. His team won 2 games in a row against the Cubs in the Tokyo series,
Yep.
which so, which somehow they found a way to win the game for those supporters out there in Japan. That they found a way. The Dodgers always find a way to win. Where they started their season early. Now they get to return home for their fans to raise a banner for those fans up at Dodger Stadium
Right.
as the World Series champs that they get to celebrate with tonight, which will be very special. And I
Now,
think those
Jack, let
fans
me let me let me
deserve it.
ask you this, Jack. The Dodgers, obviously, you mentioned them there. They're a dominant team, defending World Series champions. They spend money. They've got some a heck of a players. Do we think any other team in the National League? I'm thinking Braves, Mets, Phillies. Do we see anybody able to compete with the Dodgers, or are they going to run away with the National League again? What do we think here?
I mean, I think it's going to be Dodgers, Braves, Phillies. Going to be one contenders in, in NL
Okay.
for a um uh, um for a league title.
Right.
So that's just how I see it play out. Although, and if you add the Mets in, in the mix, which I am,
I
then
mean, they spend a lot of money, right? So,
right, the biggest payroll in all baseball with their owner with how they really are trying to build a championship team that they haven't won since 1986, way before we were even born. My parents were still alive back then, but we weren't.
barely.
So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last time now is the last time the Mets won a World Series title. But
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, but yeah, if they stay healthy and they try to build a championship team, hopefully this year, if not next year, then I think the Mets are going to be tough to beat in my mind.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
and if you
obviously.
think about and obviously yeah, I mean Juan Soto, you think about him, Blake. I'm
Hmm.
sorry to interrupt,
All
but
right, fine.
you look at his playing career. He's played with the Yankees, the Nationals, the Mets,
Padres,
Padres. Yes, Padres. If you could believe it.
cup of coffee there, yeah.
Yes, and that he's going to be playing in the same division that he's played with his tenure when he won the World Series title with the
Yeah,
Nationals back in
he's gonna have to play
2019.
Washington quite often now, isn't he?
Yeah, and think about it. I mean, think about it, Blake.
Is he gonna get some boo birds in
That if Uncle
DC?
Mike, yeah, I was going to ask about that because
Boo!
if Uncle Mike's going to see him in person,
Nah, they won't
then
boo him, will they?
if Uncle Mike's going to just, well, right. But if Uncle Mike's going to see him in person at the ballpark, and that's part, I think he's going to boo him and get him a lot of respect
You know what? I think
once he
actually
gets a at bat appearance.
I think actually he'll get a good reception because lest we forget he did win a World Series in DC
That's true.
in
That's true.
2019. So I think he'll actually get a good reception there. If I'm in Atlanta and he's there, I'm gonna boo him very much. So don't
Yeah,
worry
me
about that.
too.
But and
For those fans,
I think in
big, yeah.
DC he might get a decent reception to be fair. But
But if you and Dad and I and
no, I'm booing him
my
for sure. Yeah.
friends of mine were in Atlanta, yeah, DC, yeah, up in Washington,
Boo!
yeah, up in Washington D.C. and that's Park for open mic, different story. But down in Atlanta, with the whole family, maybe Uncle Ryan's included, maybe Parker Johnson and his dad might go to a game there. We'll see. But if we were all there as fans, and if he gets a bad appearance at Truist Park, we are going to all boo together.
Boo! Yep, no, for sure, for sure. You gotta throw out the boo birds every so often, don't you? Yeah, it's a sign
You
of
do.
respect. Sign of
You
respect.
got
All
to.
right. Well, I think we got an interesting MLB season on our hands here. Obviously, today is just the first day of a long and exciting season in Major League Baseball, and we will be sure to provide some key updates as we come along here throughout the Major League Baseball season. But I just want to say on behalf of Good Guy Sports, thank you for joining us today on this very special episode, and we'll be sure to give you some more updates on March Madness, MLB, and any other sports as we progress along here in the spring season. We've got some important playoffs coming up in basketball and hockey as well. So certainly exciting times to be a sports fan. So Jack, just want to say thank you for joining us on on today's episode.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Good Guy Sports signing out. Thanks everyone.
See you guys.